What is going on, my fellow navigators, and welcome back to another video. Today I am discussing a topic that has been on everyone's mind lately, and not just Pokemon card investors and collectors, and that is, what should I do with my $600 stimulus check? And today I'm going to be discussing that if you decide that you would like to use this stimulus check to invest in Pokemon cards, what areas I think it would be best suited. But before I get into that, guys, as a former financial advisor, I would be remiss if I didn't first give you a checklist, a financial checklist of things that you want to make sure that you've got taken care of and that you can put that $600 towards before you even start considering investing in Pokemon cards. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to PokéVisor to run through that checklist. PokéVisor, take it away. And thank you for that, PokéNav. My name is PokéVisor, and I am the personal advisor to PokéNav himself. Now, before we jump into potential investments in Pokemon that you can use this $600 towards, I first want to run through a financial checklist to make sure that you guys have your financial basis covered before you start exploring these alternatives of Pokemon cards. Now, the first thing that you want to make sure is that you have all of your bills and all of your debt paid off. The $600 would be a good opportunity that if you haven't met these obligations, to go ahead and put that towards. The next thing is that if you don't have one already, establishing a rainy day fund will be extremely important should in fact you lose your job or you come across some kind of financial or unexpected hardship. That $600 would be a great opportunity to start building that rainy day fund. And last but not least, also investing into your future and into your retirement. If you don't have one established already, perhaps getting a traditional or a Roth IRA established and using that $600 to contribute to one of those accounts for your later retirement. So those are just a few things that I would recommend checking off first and foremost. If you have done all of those, then go ahead and start exploring these alternative assets of Pokemon cards. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it back to the one and only PokéNav. And thank you for that, PokéVisor. Now that we have discussed the financial checklist and you guys have your financial basis well covered, let's start discussing how I think this $600 stimulus check would be best spent when it comes to your Pokemon card investments. Now, I've actually gotten this question quite a lot from members of the community asking me, PokéNav, I've got X amount of money. How do you think it would be best spent? What would be the best way for me to invest this amount of money? Well, now we actually have a firm amount that we can work with, that being $600. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing that I would recommend doing, and perhaps the easiest thing, is if you already have cards in your possession, use the $600 to have those cards graded and then sell them off individually. If you've been opening booster packs over the course of this this year or the last few months, and you've got some high tiered cards in there, or perhaps you have cards from your childhood, maybe some vintage WotC cards that have just been sitting in your closet, now would be a good time to go ahead and use that $600 to have those cards graded, and as I said, to sell them off individually. The one thing that I do want to stress here is that if you are going to do this, go ahead and use that 4-tier hierarchy that I've discussed in a previous video in determining which cards are actually worthy of having graded. And what I mean by that, just a quick rundown through this 4-tier system. It's based upon the condition and the value of the card. So for instance, a tier 4 card would be a card that you should only have graded if you believe it is a strong, let's say, PSA 10 candidate. These are a lot of ultra modern full art cards. And basically what we're looking at here is the profit margin of that card coming back, in a PSA 10 and then being resold on the open market. There's not a whole lot of profit margin in these tier 4 cards, so you want to make sure that these cards are a very, very strong candidate for a PSA 10. A tier 3 card would be a card to only have graded if you think it is going to come back in a PSA 9. So just one step below that PSA 10. These type of cards would be more along the lines of, let's say, maybe base set, shadowless commons, uncommons, or even other vintage, maybe non-holos, PSA 9 cards in this condition, the profit margin on there after you've taken into consideration shipping costs and all of the other extraneous costs, you want to make sure that you're leaving yourself enough profit margin there to make it worth your while. So those would be cards in that tier 3 category. Beyond that, a tier 2 card would be cards that you could have graded even if they're in a near mint status. So PSA 7, PSA 8, these would be things like gold star cards, cards that even though their condition is not great, the profit margin on them, even if they come back in that condition, is still very good. And then beyond that, a tier 1 type of card would be like a base set first edition Charizard. It really doesn't matter what condition that card comes back in. The profit margin on those is still going to be very, very good. I've seen many of those first edition base set Charizards go for a PSA 1 and still sell for over $1,000. So when you're considering this approach, just make sure that you run through that. I'll put the video up in the eye as well, so you guys can check that out and get more familiar with that tier system. And as always, you want to make sure that you're taking into consideration your grading, your shipping, and your selling costs when you're utilizing this $600, and that you're not overextending yourself and really going beyond that amount. Really look at this $600 as your budget for spending, and then make sure that you're taking everything into consideration right up front so that you're not going over that $600. The next thing here, and I have recommended this quite often, is buying binders of individual cards. Now, again, you want to remember that 4-tier system. When you're looking at a particular binder, look at the cards in there, look at the condition, and then also look at the potential value of those cards, all the way from at least near mint status up to a PSA 10. And again, taking into consideration all of your extraneous costs so that you can accurately calculate your profit margin. Binders are great because you can get bulk cards typically at a much cheaper price than buying them individually. And you just want to make sure that you are not overextending yourself here and really buying beyond your means. Use that $600 as your budget. But that's really how I got my start, was buying binders of cards. I was buying binders and giving myself a budget much less than $600. So it is still very much a viable option nowadays, especially for that particular budget of $600. There's many binders out there. Perhaps you're not finding all of the vintage products that you used to, but there's still a lot of binders for sale out there that are at a deep discount from buying those cards individually. So that is another route that I would recommend taking. Look at binders of cards, whether that's maybe in local card shops, whether that's online, or even if you have friends that have binders as well. Again, this is a great way to get bulk cards at a discount, and it leaves you plenty of money left over typically to take into consideration all of those other extraneous costs. And then, the profit margin on those is usually pretty good. And I think that, if you're going about things in the right way, it should not be that difficult to, at least double your money out of that $600 if you're going about it in the right way. The next thing that I would take a look at for this $600 is undervalued cards. Now, I have had several videos now discussing undervalued Pokemon cards. This would be a good opportunity to use that $600 to go out, buy cards that are currently undervalued by the overall market, and then take advantage of the gains that those cards achieve over the course of maybe the next 3, 6 to 12 months. And now's a good time to buy into those cards while they are at a deep discount. If you're wanting to know what type of cards, that I think are currently undervalued, be sure to go back and check those undervalued card series. I do them every single month, and I've done so for the last 3 months. So you can be sure to go ahead and check out those videos to find out, which products are currently undervalued and that I think present a good opportunity. But in the end, you just want to go out and look at cards that you think have good upside potential and use that $600 to pick those up now while they're at a cheaper price. And then like I said, take advantage of what we would consider the capital gain on those products, or the increase in value over the course of the next short term, like I said, next 3 to 12 months. So that is another good area to explore. And as I said, just check out some of my previous videos on undervalued cards if you want an idea of which cards to be looking at and which areas you should be exploring. The next thing would be, now might be a good time to start as a reseller. And what I mean by that is that in order to get products, especially modern products, at a wholesale price, you need to be an actual business entity, a reseller. So in order to work with companies out there that provide you with wholesale products, you will need to go ahead and get your reseller's permit and be established as a business entity. Now, I've talked about this in a previous video as well. Sometimes it's just as simple as setting yourself up as a sole proprietor. You can do so through most of your state's websites. And then beyond that, you will need to get a reseller's permit as well in order to work with some of these wholesale companies. On top of that, you want to typically find a company that is within your at least somewhat close geographic area, so that there's not a lag between getting products. So from them shipping products to you and to you actually receiving them. So you want to work within a close proximity to where you live. But getting your reseller's permit and getting products at a wholesale price is a great avenue to pursue, in my opinion, because you're going to get products, all these modern and ultra modern products, at a much cheaper price. And then you can turn right around, and if you've garnered some sort of a following, if you've got maybe an Instagram or a YouTube channel, or even if you want to build that, now's a great time to do, to pursue that as well. And then you can take advantage of, even if you're marking products at MSRP, which, I think you should, you're still getting about a 10%, profit margin on what you're purchasing at that wholesale price. So if you're pursuing this route, typically, it's not a huge profit on your investments, but at the same time, if you establish a good working relationship with a wholesaler, this can quickly turn into a full-on business venture that you can pursue and really expand it beyond just this initial $600 investment. And this also gives you the opportunity to buy, bulk products at a much cheaper price, and you might still be able to get things like cases of products within that $600 budget. But again, you also want to take into consideration other extraneous costs when you're considering this. But like I said, at this time, it may be a unique opportunity and a good time to start looking at becoming a reseller. And then the last thing here is sealed product. For the $600 budget, really you're going to be looking at sealed modern products that are on the rise. Now, we always run the risk with modern and ultra modern of reprints. So you want to be cognizant of that, of which products you see are potentially going to be reprinted, or that have a very high likelihood of being reprinted. Really, for me, and what I would recommend in this particular, if you're going to pursue this, is that you look at basically XY era and earlier. Those products are going to have a much less likelihood of being reprinted. They're out of competitive rotation. I don't see Pokemon, especially with the limited manpower that they have, the limited printing capacity that they have, going back to something like XY era and reprinting those. Now, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, yes, many of those sets still have the potential of being reprinted. But if you go back to X and Y era and perhaps earlier, to me, there's a much less likelihood that those products will be reprinted. And there's still many sealed products within XY era and earlier that you can pick up for $600 or less. So sealed products to me are always a good investment, especially for the long term. But really the main thing here, guys, is that you want to take that $600 and then be able to turn it around for a profit relatively quickly. So this is more of kind of a flipping approach rather than some of the videos I've discussed in the past, which is more of a buy and hold approach. You guys know I'm big on buy and hold, and also, just holding products for the long term. So for me, the $600, this is an opportunity to really break into the market if you've been considering it, or if you've really wanted to expand upon your initial investments, but just really haven't had that extra capital to do so. And as we said before, we spoke with PokéVisor, as long as all of your financial bases are covered and you guys are solidified in that area, I still think that using that $600 to invest in Pokemon is a good option, but you just have to find which approach works best for you and your particular financial situation. So that is going to do it for today's discussion on whether you should invest your $600 stimulus check in Pokemon cards. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you are considering if you are going to be spending this $600 on Pokemon and what products you are looking at. Other than that, guys, I will see you all next time. My name is PokéNav. I'm here to help you navigate the world of Pokemon one video at a time, and I will see you all in the next video.